Can something really be this cheap? A t-shirt for $5, a pair of headphones for $20. These prices almost seem too good to be true. Yet, when you walk the aisles of a supermarket or browse the endless rows of discounted products online, these bargains are everywhere, calling out to consumers with promises of savings. But behind every price tag, there's a story that stretches far beyond the shop floor, threading its way from factories on the other side of the world to the distribution centers that serve our insatiable appetite for more, for less. What is the real cost behind these deals, and how do such low prices even become possible? The answer lies in the vast gap between what it costs to make a product and what we pay for it. Imagine a t-shirt hanging on a rack for $5. It seems like a steal, but break down the journey from raw cotton to finished garment, and the picture becomes more complicated. There's the cost of materials, the labor to cut and sew, the energy to power the machines, the packaging, the shipping across oceans, and finally, the retail markup. With all these steps, how can anyone make money at such a low selling price? The truth is, somewhere along the chain, corners are being cut, and often, it's the most vulnerable who pay the price. Let's pull back the curtain to the unseen side of production. In Bangladesh, for example, the garment industry employs millions, many of whom are children as young as 12. These young workers labor for hours on end, sometimes in hazardous conditions, to meet the relentless demand for ever cheaper clothing. Their small hands stitch the seams of fast fashion, earning pennies for each shirt while the world's largest brands reap massive profits. The exploitation doesn't stop at clothing. Consider the smartphone or wireless headphones you picked up at a bargain price. Do you know where the battery inside comes from? Often, the answer is the mines of the Democratic Republic of Congo, where children toil in dangerous, toxic conditions to extract cobalt, an essential component of rechargeable batteries. They work with bare hands, exposed to harmful dust, for wages that barely feed their families, let alone offer any hope of education or a better future. In India, the story repeats itself in workshops and cottage industries, where cheap labor crafts handmade goods destined for Western shelves. Artisans, often women and children, work long hours with little protection, churning out decorative items, jewelry, and textiles. The price they receive for their labor is a fraction of what you pay at the checkout counter. These faces, the children in the textile mills, the miners in the Congo, the artisans in India, are often invisible to consumers. Their stories are rarely told. But every time we marvel at how little something costs, it's worth remembering that someone, somewhere, is paying the hidden price. Beyond the human toll, there is a planetary cost to our addiction to cheap products. In China, massive manufacturing plants churn out goods at an unprecedented scale. These factories, powered by coal and other fossil fuels, pump vast quantities of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The air around these facilities is thick with smog, and rivers nearby often run black with industrial waste, byproducts of a system designed to maximize output and minimize cost, with little regard for environmental consequences. But the impact doesn't end there. The very nature of cheap products means they're often designed to be disposable. Fast fashion epitomizes this trend. Clothes are made to be worn for a season and then discarded. The result? A mountain of waste. Landfills overflow with garments made from synthetic fibers that take centuries to break down, while microplastics from these clothes wash into our oceans, contaminating water supplies and entering the food chain. The fashion industry alone is responsible for a staggering share of global water pollution. Dyeing and treating fabrics requires massive amounts of water, often leaving behind toxic sludge that seeps into rivers and lakes. Meanwhile, the production of low-cost electronics generates heaps of e-waste, much of which ends up in developing countries, where it's dismantled by hand, often by children, exposing them to hazardous chemicals. So, who is responsible for this web of exploitation and environmental harm? Is it the companies that design and sell these products, pushing prices ever lower in a race to the bottom? Or is it the consumers, whose quest for bargains fuels the demand for ever cheaper goods? The reality is complex. At the heart of the supply chain are multinational corporations, household names whose logos are synonymous with quality and style. These companies source products from around the globe, seeking the lowest possible production costs to maximize profits. They wield enormous power over suppliers, dictating terms and timelines that leave little room for ethical considerations. But companies are not the only players in this game. Consumers, too, play a crucial role. In the West, the appetite for affordable goods is insatiable. The average person now buys more clothing, electronics, and household items than ever before, often discarding them after minimal use. With every purchase, we reinforce a system that values cost over conscience, convenience over sustainability. The production chain itself traces a map of inequality. Goods are manufactured in the global south, Bangladesh, China, India, Vietnam, the Congo, where labor is cheap and regulations lax. They travel across continents to be sold in sleek stores and online marketplaces in Europe, North America, and other wealthy regions. The profits flow back to the headquarters of major brands, while the environmental damage and human suffering remain out of sight, out of mind. Yet this system is not immutable. Change is possible, and, in fact, already underway. Around the world, consumers, activists, and even some companies are pushing for greater transparency and accountability in the global supply chain. One solution lies in making supply chains more transparent, so consumers can see exactly where and how their products are made. Emerging technologies like blockchain are being used to track goods from raw material to finished product, creating an unalterable record that can be verified by anyone. Imagine scanning a QR code on your t-shirt and instantly seeing the journey it took, from the cotton fields to the sewing floor to the shipping container. This level of transparency puts pressure on companies to uphold ethical standards and empowers consumers to make informed choices. Another path to change is through fair trade certification. Products that carry the fair trade mark must meet strict criteria for labor rights, environmental sustainability, and fair compensation. By choosing these products, consumers can support businesses that prioritize people and the planet over profit. Some companies are going even further, reimagining their entire production systems to reduce their environmental impact. They are investing in renewable energy, designing products for durability and repair, and using recycled materials to close the loop on waste. Factories powered by solar or wind energy, workers paid a living wage, and supply chains built on respect and transparency. These are not utopian fantasies, but real-world examples of how business can be done differently. The journey toward a more ethical and sustainable marketplace requires action from all of us. For companies, it means embracing responsibility for every link in their supply chain, not just the bottom line. For governments, it means enforcing labor and environmental standards, and supporting small producers in the global south. And for consumers, it means rethinking our relationship with stuff, buying less, choosing better, and demanding accountability from the brands we support. It's easy to feel powerless in the face of such a vast and complex system, but every purchase is a vote for the kind of world we want to live in. When we choose to pay a little more for products that are made ethically and sustainably, we help shift the balance of power. We send a message to companies that exploitation and environmental destruction are no longer acceptable. Of course, not everyone can afford to buy only fair trade or eco-friendly products, but even small changes, buying less, repairing instead of replacing, sharing what we have, can add up over time. And as more people demand transparency and accountability, companies will have no choice but to listen. The next time you see a t-shirt for $5 or a pair of headphones for $20, take a moment to wonder, what's the real cost? Who made this and under what conditions? What impact did it have on the planet? By asking these questions, we begin to unravel the hidden story behind every bargain. There are reasons for hope. Around the world, producers are organizing for better wages and safer working conditions. Innovators are developing new materials and processes that reduce waste and pollution. Consumers are waking up to the power of their choices. Together, we can build a future where products are not only affordable, but also fair and sustainable. Change won't happen overnight, but every journey starts with a single step. By choosing to be curious, to care, and to act, we can help write a new story, one where cheap doesn't mean exploitative, and where the true cost of our purchases is one we can all be proud to pay. If you found this story enlightening and want to learn more about the hidden side of the products we use every day, don't forget to subscribe. By staying informed and engaged, you become part of the movement for a fairer, more sustainable world. Together, we can make a difference, one conscious choice at a time.